Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Anna Marie, and not too long ago I placed a very large order on a book outlet, and there are even two more books that aren't in this ginormous stack that I ordered. However, they are presents, so I'm going to leave them off of this book haul, but I'm really excited by the books that I picked up. So I wanted to film a little video and just share in the book excitement. Now, as is standard with my videos, I do like to have a drink pairing to go with the distilled part of my username. So today I have made myself a watermelon and hibiscus gin and tonic, essentially, because it felt very summery and appropriate. And it's also a really pretty pink color. And it tastes really, really good too. But let's get to the exciting part of this video, which is of course the books. Now, the first one that I have stacked up here in front of me is Raven Unveiled by Grace Draven. And this is a fantasy romance. It's actually the second or third book in a fantasy romance series. I believe it's the third. I'm gonna look that up. It is the third book in the Fallen Empire series. I own the second book in this series, which is Dragon Unleashed, and I do not yet own the first book in this series, which is Phoenix Unbound, but all of them are pegged as really fun fantasy romance books with some really compelling characters. I have read a romance from Grace Draven in the past and absolutely adored it. That book was... oh my God, what was that book? Can you tell I'm rusty? That was Radiance by Grace Draven, and I really enjoyed the romance and the two main characters in that book. So I've had this one on my radar. I've really wanted to read Dragon Unleashed, but I figured I should read the first book in the series first. But then I saw this for sale on a book outlet and just couldn't resist. Because it's an author I've already read, and because it's an author that I've previously really enjoyed, I figured it was a safe bet. Also, the cover on this is really, really pretty. But yes, we have a slow burn fantasy with dragons, danger, and delicious romance. I have been reaching for my fantasy romance in my YA fantasy a whole lot recently. That is just what has been fueling my desire to read. So I am hoping to pick up Phoenix Unbound soon so that I can get started on this series because it sounds really compelling and I'm excited to dive into it. The next book that I picked up is by an author that I hadn't read before I placed this book order, but it is the first book in a series, so it's a bit of a safer bet. And that is Blade of Secrets by Trisha Levenseller. I think that is how you say their last name. And this is a YA fantasy. So again, that is just what I have been craving to read recently. And this is Blade of Secrets, if I did not say that already. And as you might be able to tell by the title of the book, it has to do with a bladesmith. And our main character is Ziva, who is a blacksmith, and they have been tasked with forging this very dangerous sword that has the capability of destroying the world. So then they embark on a quest with a few other folk to save the world, which just sounds amazing, and I'm excited to read this one. This might be one of the books that I pick up next. Then to jump ahead slightly in my stack to pick up the other Levenseller title that I picked up is The Shadows Between Us. Now this Spencer has joined us. No, come on. Good boy, come here. Right, so this book is The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller, and it is a YA fantasy romance, again, with an enemies to lovers couple. And I actually have read this since this book order arrived. I think it was the first night or the second night after I got all these books. I just couldn't resist, and I picked it up and ended up reading it all in one night. I think I went to sleep around 2 a.m. or so, which made the next day not as fun, but I really enjoyed this. It is a standalone fantasy, although there is a spin-off sequel of sorts set within this world, but following different characters. However, the romance and story within this book is self-contained, and I think I'm happy to leave it just as a standalone. I did enjoy it. I had a few issues with it. It wasn't like a 5-star, 10 out of 10 read, but I did really enjoy it for what it was, and I am very happy that I finally picked this up because I have seen this kind of all over the place on Bookstagram and doing the rounds online. Next up is a debut publication, and this is Dead Man's Hand by James J. Butcher, who is the son of Jim Butcher that you may know from the Dresden Chronicles, which is a series that I absolutely adore. And I will be honest, I was initially intrigued because I knew that James was the son of Jim, and I thought that perhaps he wrote in a similar style to his father. And then when I read the synopsis, I was really intrigued even more so. The back here just says, an underrated witch, a retired magic hunter, a shocking murder. And yes, it says here that it is in the tradition of his renowned father. So it's an urban fantasy. I believe there's some quest elements to it. It's the first in a series, so I'm excited to pick this up and see what I think about this book here. Then the next two books I have are actually sequels. The first one is The Thousand Eyes by A.K. Larkwood, which is the sequel to The Unspoken Name. The Unspoken Name is I can't actually remember if it was young adult or adult fantasy, but there were some romance elements to it, and one of the main characters was an orc, and it was a female-female romance at the center of that book. I do remember not entirely buying in to the main romance, which disheartened me slightly, but I did enjoy the overall story and plotline. So I had the sequel on my list of books to pick up, and then when I saw it for a great deal on Book Outlet, I decided to take the plunge and pick this one up. And I don't want to say too much about this book since obviously there would be spoilers if you have not already read The Unspoken Name. I think I gave that one 3 stars or so, but I'm intrigued to see how things continue for our main characters in this one here. I apologize if you can hear meows happening in the background. If you did not catch probably the video before this one, I have acquired another cat, and Minnie and Spencer like to run around and chase each other and get up to general shenanigans together, which is adorable, and I absolutely love witnessing it. But it does mean that the chaos in my life has increased just a touch. The next book that I picked up was a bit of a risk because it is again the second book in a series, but I haven't read the first book yet. It's still sitting up there on my TBR shelf, but that is The Cradle of Ice by James Rowlands, which is the second book in the Moonfall series. And from what I recall of the first book, it is supposed to be an epic fantasy with a ragtag group on a quest, which, if you know me, if you have watched my most loved tropes video, spoiler alert, that is one of my favorite tropes. So I picked that one up, and then again, when I saw that this was on sale for a great deal, I couldn't resist picking up the hardback copies so that it matches the first book in the series on my shelf. So fingers crossed that I love this series, this book. If you have read the first book in this series, let me know what you thought. Fingers crossed that you enjoyed it. But yes, one downside to Book Outlet is that you sometimes get copies that have old stickers on them if they don't have the little mark along the spine. However, oh well. Then the last two books that I have to share with you today are slightly different in the sense that they are nonfiction. However, they both still pertain to fantasy, so it still feels on brand for me. But the first book is Origins of the Wheel of Time. I adore the Wheel of Time series, and I'm actually in the middle of a sporadic reread. I ended up just getting the audiobooks out from my library and have been listening to them. So I'm currently on A Memory of Light. So I'm on the last book. I'm reliving the final moments, and I'm so excited once I finish A Memory of Light again to pick up the Origins of the Wheel of Time. I have already flipped through this book, and it is so cool to take a look at. They have some photos in here of Jordan's notes, and to see the different iterations of what would become these iconic characters to me and to millions of other fans is just really cool. I have also read Warrior of the Altai, which was published after his death, and you can see glimmers of what would become really iconic moments and places and characters within the Wheel of Time in that book. So whilst I don't think that is a great book, I do think it is an enjoyable read for Wheel of Time fans, which I am sure that this book will be as well. So yes, the legends and mythologies that inspired Robert Jordan. Then the final book that I have here today is Slaying the Dragon, A Secret History of Dungeons and Dragons by Ben Riggs. And this is just all about the ownership of Dungeons and Dragons and how it changed and how it evolved, and just a little bit into the nitty and gritty that was going on behind the scenes. And I am really, really excited to read this one. I also think the title is just an amazing title, and the cover is really stunning as well. So excited to read this one, probably soon as well. I've been in a little bit of a nonfiction buzz. After not reading nonfiction for a while, I have read 2 nonfiction books back to back. So yes, I'm hoping to pick up Slaying the Dragon and Origins of the Wheel of Time soon. But those are the books that I have acquired as of late. I finally managed to get my unread books on my bookshelf down to just one shelf. And then I bought 8 more to expand that onto a second shelf. But I've already read one of them, so that is fantastic news. And I read it in one day, one evening. So there are a handful of books in here too that I think are going to be really quick reads. And most of these were already listed as my wish list TBR on Goodreads. So when I saw them on sale for a great deal, I just couldn't resist. I cannot resist a good book bargain. But that is it for me today. Let me know down in the comments below if you have read any of these books and what you thought. Hopefully I'll have my own thoughts compiled here soon with how I found them. But yes, thank you very much for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it, and hopefully I will be back very soon with a new one. Bye for now. Cheers.